This is Elizabeth, the premier florist from Wake Forest University, and she's giving a demonstration today.
Hello, I want to go over some tips on flower arranging at your home. It may seem like rocket science when you go to the florist and buy it. Believe me, anybody can do this. It's very simple. Okay, I'm using a glass container here with tape on the top. It's hard to, I've got it so full of water, but anyway, I'll show you how to do that. I think you can get most of these floral supplies at like Walmart, Michael's, that sort of thing. This is a brand by Oasis. It's very thin floral tape. It's made to stick very well to glass. And you can use Oasis foam, but if you're using a clear container, it shows, which is not very nice to look at. So this is a way to cut down on weight, because Oasis, when it's wet, is very heavy. Plus, it's a good way to secure your flowers in your container so they're not moving around. See, I just do a grid on top, and then you come around with an anchoring lap with your tape till you get to the original point and cut it. And you want to fold this under. Believe me, it's hard to find the end. Okay, so I just wanted to show how to do that. And then we just put water in. This will be for one of our containers. And it's important to put your tape on before you add your water, because this has to be completely dry in order for the tape to stick. Learned that the hard way. Okay. All right, springtime, we're using a lot of, these are floral hydrangeas. The variety on this is Sacha, S-A-C-H-A. Uh-oh, lost my clippers. Here they are. And they come from California, and it's kind of like the new hot thing in the floral industry. These hydrangeas are you can get a lot out of your hydrangeas rather than just putting the full stem in, which is great, and I probably would do that in this container, but in this round one, you just take and cut your stems right off at the tip there. This acts as an anchor. This is an anchoring feature, plus it hides the tape and it will hold your flowers because it is an anchoring feature. And most of the time when you're doing your flowers, you always need to be thinking of where they're going to be seen, like from what viewpoint. Because what I'm working on right now is a high table, because I'm tall and I don't like to work on really low surfaces. It gets to your neck after about 7 hours looking down. So I work on higher surfaces, but you have to keep in mind how it's going to be viewed. If it's a centerpiece, you want to keep it low enough for everyone to still be able to talk over. That is a very, very important feature of flower arranging. And it comes with time, you know, or when you set it on your table and you feel like, I've got to go back and redo that, it's too tall. You usually, you know, have a casserole in the oven at that point, and you don't want to start all over. So, anyway, this is Majestic Giant greenery from a tree on campus. I guess you can tell we're not actually on campus. We're at my home in East Bend doing this in a partial rain. Gotta do it. You gotta do it. Sometimes there's brown pieces in this and you pull it off. This stuff has a great citrus smell and it holds up forever. Normally I start with the greenery. This time I didn't, and I should have, but it's okay. I'm tucking it in. These hydrangeas, you put them in and they are tender. Don't get me wrong, but they can take a whole lot of abuse without getting too bruised up. I kind of get them where I want, and then you just use a gentle, kind of like little push to anchor them in. And this helps anchor the hydrangea in. So that's the beauty of that. Okay, now these are daffodils from campus, other hydrangeas. This is Linton Rose or Helleborus. This is also from campus. And this is a different variety of Helleborus here. It's a longer stemmed variety. I think I'll use it next. And then we have white roses. And normally I just keep a little bucket of, one extra little bucket of water to pull my flowers for which arrangement I'm working on at that time. You don't have to pull the leaves off. Sometimes I do because you just have so much room, and then it gets a little tight. Okay. You just have to separate those little petals and find a place where there isn't tape, which can be difficult. As you can see, the flowers do all the hard work. You just have a little bit of control, but really, the flowers are the ones in charge. Pretty much I'm working on centerpieces today. That's what we're doing. And what I do is constantly turn the container. So keeping in mind of keeping it low, and also turning it so most people are going to be, obviously at a table arrangement, most everyone's going to be looking at it. It's going to be seen from all the sides. These flowers are not super delicate, meaning they don't bruise very easily, so that's why I'm putting them in at this stage. As you do more flower arranging, you'll be able to tell certain things bruise easily, like daffodils. It's hard to even just get them transported from point A to B that they don't have bruises on them. If you're hearing anything that sounds like a rooster in the background, like that, you're not going crazy. You are hearing a rooster. We have chickens, roosters, dogs, ducks, guineas. Some of these daffodils are not what I would call superb, but they were not grown for the floral industry. They were grown to enjoy on campus. So, keeping that in mind, they just add a real touch of spring that really nothing else can do. Nothing else can bring. Who doesn't love a daffodil after the winter? But you have to also give them a good look, because they do bruise easy. Some of these are, I would use them for my own home, but I sort of hate to make an arrangement, put them in something a bit give away. Let's see. Odd numbers normally work out better in your flower arrangements than evens. Usually 3 to 5 or 7 of things. Something to keep in mind. Daffodils will work in Oasis, in an Oasis cube, but you have to make it's like drilling a pilot hole in wood. I use a pencil, and when I use some in a few minutes, actually in Oasis you have to make a pilot hole because the stems of these daffodils will not go into Oasis without breaking. The worst thing you can do when you're arranging flowers is put it in and take it out. So, I can't stand that there. I'm wondering if it's going to look better over here. Just place it where you think it's going to look good and leave it and keep on moving. Because you can drive yourself crazy. Believe me, worrying about it forever. I think I might put a few tulips in this too. At least 3. Okay. Just white, basic tulips. Everybody will be getting some in their yard pretty soon. Just broke that one. Be used later. Talk about tender. Okay. That's why these go in last. And I peel the big leaves off. Then cut it. And they will elongate. This is a flower as it's in the water. It starts off at this level, and by the next day it'll be out maybe an inch or 2. The warmer it is, the more it elongates. But they add such a beautiful spring presence. It's one of my favorite flowers to work with. In the floral industry, you pretty much can get them year-round. But this is the peak time. You get them down into the water good. Get another one. There's even one broken in this bucket right now. Yet another. That's why you have to buy extras. And you can take a knife and score around to remove these leaves, but I normally just peel them, and then if there's any mud or dirt in the area where you're going to put them in, just shake it in your bucket. It takes it right off, and will go into your container. Little push. Okay. We're going to call it quits on this one. Move along. Can always add more later if we need to. Got more ground to cover. Okay. Next, we want to use Oasis, which I've already pre-soaked. It's very important to soak your Oasis thoroughly. And I take it in the bucket and then dunk it, and it has these little bitty holes, and the water will go right through that. You think you have it completely saturated, but you really don't until you do that. And then there's scoring on the Oasis, and it helps you divide it up. Know where to cut. So for this container, I would probably just go right in half, and there's a spot. Just a butcher knife. Put it down in there, and then give a little firming push. Holds. Okay, I'm gonna get these out of there. Normally I have a watering can, but just We can do with this bucket today. Then I fill this up to about over half. Okay. Now I'll start with a little more evergreen. Very little. And the best pieces are on the very end. So there's some of this that, gets tossed. Okay. I have some clearance here. Push it in. Alright. And for this one, I'm going to bring up into the center a bit. Okay, sink that in. Keep your surface pretty clean. You can tell what you're doing. Okay, this time we're going to use the white hydrangea. These are California grown. They're in the floral industry. Just ask for white hydrangeas. University, we have an account with a wholesale provider, wholesale distributor out of Kernersville named LaMille. But as you know, Sam's, Walmart, Costco, it's not that hard to find cut flowers. Trader Joe's does a great job. And mostly for homeowners, a store like Trader Joe's will give you what you need, but we have such large events that it's not really practical for us to buy at Trader Joe's. Sometimes we do, but very rarely, because we need more flowers than what, 17 packets of hydrangeas. We use green and white a lot. Goes with everything. It's very clean, classic, simple lines. Okay, some roses, Linton roses. These only come, you can't buy the Linton rose in the floral trade unless I guess you pre-ordered with a grower over in Holland or something. I'm sure you could get it, but it'd be very expensive. And we have a lot of varieties of Linton rose on campus. And I just love using it in the tulips in the spring. So easy and pretty. You want to cut your flowers and then you give them another little fresh cut, okay, at an angle so there's more surface area exposed. Just a little fine snip. Put it in. Okay, sometimes you hit those stems of that stuff, you have to back out and try it again. Like this one. This is bigger, so you get more. Out of that. Sometimes you want to come down and give it this right here. This is an anchoring factor, but it looks kind of barren. So I'll come in at just a slight angle. You have a lot of control with Oasis. It's one of the beauties of it. But you just have to know how much pressure to put, because on this tender stuff. See, that's an anchoring factor. It just brings it on down. Okay. This will be the anchor factor on the next one. These are so beautiful. I wish you could see them up close. I love the green and the pink. It's very nice. oasis is in there like this, and I'm going at an angle like that. Not straight down and not straight in, but just at an angle. And it also, it pulls the water better from the container through the oasis. It gives a good drink to stay in there. And again, a third one. Tall. Take another snip off of that, pull this leaf off. Because that's a drinking factor too. When you take the leaf off, that's a point of entry for the flower to absorb. You get that down there close to the oasis. It takes a while to learn how much pressure that you can actually put on these things without snapping them. Fine line, which there's no way to tell you. It's just a matter of you doing trial and error. This is too long. Look out. And ankle factor. Well, I think the rain's coming back. Okay, no problem. Work in the rain all the time. The roses, be sure to wash your hands really well. There's tons of chemicals on imported roses. Or maybe mini roses, domestic roses maybe, but there are. You can see it on there. Okay. I like to put the roses in to where they're exposed, but not like way out here, because if they're sticking way out, it's almost like you need a filler like baby's breath or something small to nestle in around to hide the stem, so that it's just not like super stemmy. But I usually take the outer petals off. Those are kind of like travel petals. They almost always have a bruise on them initially. Sometimes you have to go down 2 or 3 petals to get out of that bruising zone. These things have traveled thousands of miles to get here. They're doing pretty darn good to look this great. And this one looks good. I'm going to take it off. I support the rose right below the neck, right at the neckline. That's where it's pretty firm, and then just you find your spot and you just push it down as far as you want to go. Some roses don't have a pretty shape like this one. I'm not liking this one because it's very pointed rather than rounded. It's hard. Those are called bullets, and they will never open. Sad. Watch. You can do it. Think you can. You can do it. After your first 1,000 arrangements, you'll have no trouble at all throwing away a rose that doesn't, you meet the mark. Okay, wait, that needs a little bit more in here. Right there, just this. There's a little gap right there. I could use more hydrangea, but I've got plenty of this. I'm gonna use it. to kind of pull the hydrangea down in front so you don't, bruise it. The white ones do show. These are more forgiving, and the ones out of your yard are even better because they haven't been shipped from California, Argentina, wherever they've come from. They last so much longer. But it's going to be a little while before those are on our bushes at home. Hope you have some hydrangeas at home. Okay, number 2. I'll use a different container this time. I could use tape on this, but I'm going to use Oasis because guess what? It's the right size. Okay, you see this is too big, so we're going to do a little shave. My producer has told me that you can't see me. Okay. If you're really, really intent on it, you can do it this way and measure and all that. I just give it a little generous cut, and if it's not enough, which it's not, I'll take some off on this side. Less is more. So once it's off, it's hard to get it back on there. And some people reuse this stuff time and time again, and you can do that. But normally for our events that we have on campus, it's like we use them, and then there's another event coming, and sometimes the flowers aren't even used up yet. So we'll just use them again. So I don't disassemble. I just begin anew. If that makes sense. Okay. This time I'm not going to put any greenery in here. Of the evergreen. Let's use some more California hydrangea. Okay, another key factor on these things is sometimes you get them and they're wilted. Hydrangea. Key word, hydra. I had one that was completely wilted because I hadn't put it down in the bucket. It got out of the water somehow. So I cut the end, put it down in the water, and you can even put it in upside down if you have enough time. Let it soak from the bottom, and then just spray it. If you're working outside, just go on and put water directly on it. Okay, this is such a big thing that I would cut this apart to use it, okay? Just come here, right to the base. Leave your stems as long as you can, because you can always recut. And you can even cut them smaller. And I've got some smaller containers, and we're going to do some little, hopefully get to do a little micro container. There's no such thing as too many Sacha hydrangeas. I haven't found any of these that grow around here. I don't think they've made it out to our side of the country yet. I sure would love to have one. These shrubs. They're kind of the rage in the floral industry right now. It's more work when you cut them apart, but you can fill it in. So pretty. Don't have to put the stems directly, just totally close, because you want to leave room for adding other flowers in there. I love the green and white. It's got some great. You can use these hydrangea leaves too if you want. it's a pressure thing, putting this stuff in here. It can break on you, and if you feel it break, especially if you're using something like daffodils, if you feel that stem snap and break, pull it out, cut to where the break is, because it won't draw water once the stem is broken. It just won't, it breaks the vascular system. And when you're using Oasis, which we are now, you can't, like I showed before, when you're using water, you can't, that's not going to work. You can't fluff this. You can fluff it a little, but you're not going to move it. Once it's down in there, it's going to stay. Okay, let's see what's in here. Jeez, it's kind of love the leaves on this. And they have these little stamen, and this will shed, but it's kind of like the cool thing for it to shed. Even on your tablecloth, it's kind of the cool thing now, because that means it's so fresh. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but you see it in a lot of floral magazines, and people aren't stressed out about it at all. But I mean, the blossoms on these are just incredible. And on this one, because there's so much of the hydrangea, I don't really worry about having something below it to anchor. Like I showed you before, don't really need to put anything down under there to anchor it. It's already got that anchor point below. It's a little too long still. Still a little tall, but for this one I've created a little hole there because of the way that it's shaped, so I am going to put an anchor point on it. Again, Helleborus, or common name, Lenten rose. And sometimes you can just get it right down into the edge of the pot, and that is the perfect water spot. I think I felt the bloom break. Okay. If not, you can find it. Okay, there's a major bloom coming in this direction. So I'm going to put this bloom this way. It's open. Be a big happy face facing this way. Thinking of positive and negative space. This one's really rather simple. I don't know if I want to add some roses or not to it. I think so. I think it looks a little plain. 5 out. And then we're working with the odd numbers again. This little baby, you're so cute. I have a hard time throwing the tulip away. Check it, see if it needs any taken off. Nope. And see, when I'm putting that in, you don't put it straight in, like this way, or straight up. It's kind of at a slight angle. So it's displayed better than just being in at a straight kind of weird angle. And these roses will continue to open. Should. It's a plan. Strange, okay? At this point, this would be if I was going to put tulips in, unless they were homegrown tulips with a really thick stem, they would be difficult to get in this because there's a lot of plant material in a small container here. Don't know what you think. I think it dressed it up a bit to add those roses. Sometimes it's kind of a feeling kind of thing. And then put another Linton rose over here. Needs it. Sometimes you want to put it where you want to put it and it doesn't want to go there. Here we go. I got one more Linton rose. That open spot. Right here. Needs a little something. And these things grow at strange angles, so you have to kind of cut it apart. Needs one more rose in there. One tall point. Okay. Number 3. Okay, I said I was going to do a little tiny one. Well, this one's not little tiny, but this is ones like you would use multiple for a table. So, good? Great. Okay. Tons of daffodils. Daffodils love water. I have another bucket of them down here that I'm going to work from. These don't seem to be quite as bruised as that other bucket. put in several at a time. Normally start in the center and then just work out. And it takes a tremendous amount of flowers when you're just using a monochrome, just one type of flower. But it makes a big impression. Just have to make sure you get them in there tight enough. Make your grid small enough. I mean, look at this. That's so beautiful. That one you would want to put a little longer, so it sticks out. Topper. And they're very pretty. It's so bright. And there might be a bruise or two on some of these. That one. It's so hard to get rid of it. Because those bruises are only going to get worse. Once you get quite a few in there, then they sort of hold themselves, and then you can actually start kind of arranging. I think these are pretty. They have a fragrance sort of like the way they look to me. They look like how they smell how they look to me. Just the way. So sad. Somebody's been in a car wreck, bruised up, and can't be used. These are great to go in powder rooms, down the center of a table, several down the table. And I'll tell you about these smileys. These are beautiful just by themselves as well. I think even completely as beautiful as the daffodils. On short stems again, that would be our longest stem there. They take a little more room. They're not quite as floppy as the daffodils. Okay, so you sort of have a base here. So the next cuts you make longer. Because you want these to, I want these to rise up above. And there'll be shiftage. It's just up and down. I mean, you see, the flowers do all the hard work. I always say that. And it sounds simple, but it really is simple. That's the beauty of it. The flowers really are. They are the ones that do all the hard work. For my taste, I think that's beautiful. Just very simple. And we could add some tulips to it to dress it up. Don't need to, but Why not? Especially this broken one. Come back over. Camera getting wet. This will be fast. These go in fast. And there are some flowers that are so, like when you're planning your dinner and you get a little bit of experience doing this, you'll know, oh, I definitely want to use hydrangeas and tulips. I won't have to, do this the night before. They go in fast, the day of. They'll look beautiful. They'll look the best. And that's the deal with tulips and hydrangeas. It's a very fast kind of flower. Roses, not so fast. A lot of roses, you have to clean all of those thorns, the leaves, the stuff. These today I'm using a short, doing a short. They're being used short in the arrangements. When you're using long stem roses, it's a lot of work. Remember, these tulips are going to grow a little bit. That one's a little too long. Pull it out. I know I said not to, but, do as I say, not as I do. All right. Got to do another one of these. Remember, take your oasis up and down, let that water go all the way through it. When you put your oasis in the bucket, do not push it down. It's not made to be submerged. It likes to absorb the water all on its own. So even if you think you want to dunk, your oasis, please don't. It will not absorb the water as well. Believe me, you'll want to use a pitcher, not what I'm doing with the bucket. And it's really important the containers you put your flowers in for what you're arranging in and what you're holding the flowers in need to be clean, very clean. They don't like mold, stuff like that. Very sensitive to contaminants. Deep in there. Okay. And this thing's big. Okay, I'm just going to get, I think he's using two. I'm going right on the edge of Oasis and at an angle. All the way down where the stems are. Okay. Got one more of those. I'm going to cut it up because I've got gaps here. Okay. Just go right there. They all come off the central stalk. Cut. Get the ones with the sturdiest stems. This is a sturdy stem. And gently insert it. It's a little secret. There or not. Here. Side. And just fill in. Looks all right. Now, got a lot of this. Boris. Now, since this seems to be a bigger arrangement, I'm not going to cut all this down. We're going to use it more as stems. It's more in scale. Leaving it whole. We have some pink varieties on campus, but I knew we were using yellow, and I'm not crazy about putting pink and yellow together, so I didn't cut any of those. They're really beautiful. They're like a dusty mauve pink. Very pretty. See how this has a natural curve down? Don't fight it. Go with it. It's curved down. It wants to go down. Put it somewhere going down. Okay. Ones that are more exposed, perfection look, put them to the top where they stand up. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to even have like a turntable or on your, this table's wet, so anything glass kind of clings. When I go to turn it, it doesn't want to turn. Okay. Find a spot between there. Oh, it's great when it goes in right where you're wanting it to. Okay. Put in maybe a couple of these just as a different texture. To me, these look like very different flowers, even though they are the same type. They're different varieties. They have more green, the other has more yellow. The more green, you can take this towards green, or you can take this towards yellow. I just think they're gorgeous. Hope nobody's falling asleep by now. It's probably getting bored watching this. How many times can you watch this? One more. 3 stems of this type. I like being able to show the personality, so to speak, of the flower. That's why I like to use the whole flower and not always chopping them down, because you can't really see what the characteristic is of the flower. There, ta-da! Anything more will be taking away from this, in my opinion. Wait, forgot one. I think this little guy needs to go over here. Fight it. thank you all so much for your interest in it. I also would like to add that after 32 and a half years of service and work at Wake Forest, I'm going to be retiring the end of next month. I'm very happy about it. And thank you very much for tuning in.